Okay, welcome back to Chasing Light Gallery. That's our name, right? So, we're here with our second podcast. Today we'll be talking about street photography, getting started. There's so many questions that I get in regards to street photography. There's different ways of doing it. And we have a special guest today, that a good friend of ours named Carlos, that does street photography. And his method of doing it is a little bit different than mine, and Robin's got a little bit different than mine as well. So if you guys want to say hello, Carlos.
Hey.
That's not
hey,
Carlos.
hello.
That was Robin. So go ahead.
Yeah. Hello.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back.
Okay. Street photography, a lot of questions we get online. Like if I post a photo online, it never fails. Somebody will come along and go, did you ask permission to take these photos? Do they know they're going to be on the internet? And for me, I don't typically ask. I just shoot. And the thing is, in the US, the laws are, if you can see it in public, you can photograph it, you can put it on the internet, you can do anything you want with it because it's out in public. People tend to think they have privacy in public, and I've never heard of privacy in public. It's kind of contradicts itself, you know. And there's people that get very upset if they catch you taking their photo. They'll say, you're invading my privacy. But yet, every store they go into, they're being photographed and videotaped and things like that. And they have no privacy. The only time you can run into an issue taking somebody's photo out in public is if you slap a logo on it to sell cologne or cars or something, things like that. Then you need a model's release. But if you're just doing it for like editorial and for art pieces, I can sell them as art pieces or coffee table books. There's nothing wrong with it by law in the US. Now there's other countries, their laws are different. And so if you're in a different country, I would research the laws. We got a little more freedom here in the US with it. And Germany, I hear, is the toughest one. You can get in a lot of trouble in Germany, is what I hear. You know, get arrested for it, from what my understanding.
Wow.
Now, I could be wrong, but if I am, leave a comment. But everyone I've ever talked to says Germany's the toughest. And so getting started in street photography can be very nerve-wracking. How nerve-wracking is it?
Very much so, especially with me. I'm very conscientious of others and not trying to invade their space. But if I see the emotion or want to capture a moment, then I want to do it. But anyway, yeah, it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, you should have seen Robin's first time when I took her out doing street photography. Because it can be very nerve-wracking. And I gave her a 7200 lens so she could stay far away from people in reach. And I showed her this light on the side of a building, and it had great shadow and light. And I said, stay on the opposite side of the street and wait for somebody to walk into the light and capture them when they went by. Oh man, I wish this was visual just so I could show you how she looked trying to be sneaky. And she walks by and she's trying to look casual, and all of a sudden she just turns and clicks real quick and then looks down and walks away. And she goes, I think I missed him. You know? So it was pretty entertaining. What was the first time you've tried, Carlos?
When I started traveling to other countries.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, when I was here, well, when I started taking pictures, it was of things, animals, objects, you know, a lot of landscape. But then when I started traveling to other places, it was the people what fascinated me. So
Right.
then I started focusing more on faces and expressions and the interactions of the people. And I found that, like you were saying, you're on the other side of the street with I shot with a zoom lens usually for that.
Right.
And it was an 18 to 105, and I could be watching people interact, and anticipate something that was going to happen, or just see it happening and then take a shot of it. And for some reason, it's like I'm invisible.
Right, right. Yeah, zoom lenses can help you stay back until you can get used to doing street photography and can get up on them with a 35 or 50 millimeter, because you got to be very close with those. Some people shoot with 24 millimeter, and you got to be even closer with those. But the beauty about those, you can shoot from the hip and still get everything in the scene and then crop out what you want. I'm not a fan of that style of shooting, but it can be interesting at times.
I think that's why I got more comfortable, though, when we got our mirrorless cameras and we started shooting from the hip, and you taught me how to do that. All of a sudden, you know, I wasn't having to like point my camera right into somebody's face. As I'm walking by, I could just see my subject and click and have the camera positioned at my hip and hope for the best. But we got used to where to hold that camera.
Yeah. Sometimes Robin and I, if there was a shot I wanted to get, and it was real easy to get caught, and we wanted to catch the person being very casual, I would hold up the camera and have Robin look at it, pretend like I'm showing her something on the back of the screen, but I'm really lining up my shot, and then I would grab the shot. So sometimes we'll do that if it's a shot we really want to get, and we're just like, oh, they've spotted us, but if we wait long enough, they'll go back to being calm again, and we can get that shot. So sometimes we'll trick the scene like that. Carlos, you tend to ask people to photograph.
Yeah. I've done that a lot. I just did it last Saturday with the Japanese guy with the long hair and the mustache and all that.
Yeah, it was a great photo.
So I just looked for people that are out of the ordinary, per se. And I'll go approach them and tell them, hey, I do people pictures. You know, I'm not a professional, but I love doing this. And out of all the people that I can see around us right now, wow, you are, you know, you stand out. You have features that are very interesting. You remind me of some actor or whatever. And we start talking, and 99.9% of the time they agree to do a photo. And I always tell them, I'll take one. If you don't like it, you delete it right here on my camera.
Right.
And most of the time they see it and they go, oh, can we do some more?
Right.
Yeah, I think I remember the first time we met you, and I went up to the ramp, I guess, to walk with you. That was it. Yeah, and I remember it was your eyes were constantly scanning.
Oh, I'm always.
And you were just looking for interesting faces or interesting features.
And the interactions.
Yeah. And it seems like most of the time you do end up talking to the people and showing them their photo, but it also leads to friendships, it seems like.
Oh, yeah, it has.
And later photo shoots, you end up doing a full shoot with them. So, you know, it's a pretty good way to meet people and socialize as well.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever run into a problem asking anybody?
No. Some people have said no, I'd rather not, or they look very stressed all of a sudden. And when it's like that, I say, it's okay, we don't have to do it. I just thought you'd look really cool, and I'd love a picture of it. Yeah. But if they show any sign like that of stress coming in, I'll turn it off. And sometimes they say, well, okay, well, let's try it. But if they don't, I don't pursue it. And a lot of, like in foreign countries, a lot of times I'll shake the camera and I motion like, can I take your picture without talking? And if they say no, I'll say okay, and I keep walking.
Right.
I don't. Yeah. But so many times they go yes, and then they ham it out. You know, and
right.
But if they do that, and I thought the person was really interesting, facial structure and all, then I'll say, well, that, I'll take a few, show them, and we laugh and everything, and they say, can I do a more serious photo, like I'd like you, and I kind of post them a little bit,
right.
And they always end up liking those.
Right.
So it depends on the situation and where I'm at, how the people are, you know, if they're friendlier in a city. Some cities, people are not so open to that.
They're always in a rush, you know,
Right,
and
yeah.
they don't have time for nonsense, you know. And Robin, I know she can get very social sometimes when we're out shooting. You've gone out shooting with us. Like, where's Robin?
Right.
She's talking to that guy down there, and I'll go, she's going to be an hour. Let's go. Let's keep shooting. She's very social out and about. And
well, like you, I like to capture the emotion when it's candid. However, you know, sometimes we get caught.
Yeah.
And usually if they give me eye contact, I just smile and wave, and they usually smile back as well. But I know sometimes I see somebody or a family, and like Carlos, I decide just to have a conversation and tell them, you know, I like their look, and they mind if I take their photo. And so there are occasions I like to ask as well, and especially if it's a young child. If they have a parent around, I'll say, do you mind if I take a few pictures of your kids? And usually they're all, sure, go for it.
Right.
But when it comes to children, sometimes you need to be a little bit more careful, you know.
Yeah, I won't photograph kids unless the parents say, go ahead, shoot, you know, photograph my child. From a guy, to me, it seems creepy, you know, and Robin can get away with more of that than I can, you know.
Right.
And so to me, that's off limits. Even by law, I can go out and photograph as many little kids as I want. There's just an area that you got to let your own morals kick in. It's like, you know, your parents, the way today's day and age is, parents might read that wrong. And to me, there's no photo worth making an enemy over.
Right.
You know, and so certain things I won't photograph, like somebody said, let's go down to spring break. And I'm like, even though there's going to be people everywhere, it's going to be mostly young girls in bikinis. And that's not art to me. You know, if I photographed a young girl in a bikini, that's all the story it's going to say. They're just going to go, he's a creeper. He's photographing young girls in bikinis, not going, look at the quality of the shot, look at the lighting.
No.
Instantly, it'll be misread.
Yes.
You know, I need stuff that has a story. I went through a phase where, because to me, homeless people and their faces and tell a whole story. And I went through a phase, I was photographing homeless people, but then the more I started doing it and looking at the photos, the more I started telling myself, this needs to be off limits, you know, because how would you feel if, you know, you're just a novelty to some photographer because you're homeless, you know. And, you know, when it comes to street photography, if I catch certain photos that I don't feel tell a nice story and are very complimentary to the people, I look at it and go, all right, if this was me, would I want this all over the internet? And if the answer is no, I'll delete the photo. Even though by rights, I can post anything I want, you know. You know, in the past, I've photographed certain situations that photo could have made me go viral. But at the same time, it's like, man, if that was me, I wouldn't want anybody seeing this.
Right.
You know.
And that's a good rule of thumb to live by for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's street photographers out there that are very brutal and bold.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think they mess it up for a lot of, you know,
Yes.
street photographers that treat everybody with respect, you know. Have you had any issues with anybody, Robin?
I have not.
I've been with
No.
you the whole time. I couldn't think of any.
Yeah, I don't think I've had any issues. And if I felt like, you know, they were looking at me funny, if they caught me, I would just go have a chat with them,
Right.
you know, and just make sure they were cool.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe share them the photo. Maybe, you know, a lot of times we email photos to people, you know, when they see us or we talk to them,
Yeah.
we'll always send them the free photo,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And even I've noticed a few people have seen your work, like in the Florida photography group or somewhere where you posted, and somebody goes, oh, I know that person. And then we're like, if they want a photo, let us know. And sometimes they contact you and get the photo that way too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, I've only had one photo. This is the biggest problem in 20 years of shooting street photography. I only had one photo that the person was upset, and they saw it online. But they weren't upset that I took their photo. She was upset that she had a double chin in the photo and asked if I would remove it.
That would be me.
And I honestly thought it was a great photo, but like I said, no photo's worth making an enemy over. So I said, sure, I'll delete it, you know. And she was having ice cream with her elderly son, and it was like one of those almost Norman Rockwell moments. I thought, and the lighting was great coming out of the ice cream shop. It was evening, and she wanted it gone because of a double chin.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's like, okay, no problem. And I can't see Robin going through a tough time with anyone on the streets, because if they caught her, as soon as she starts talking with that sweet voice,
Right.
even if she's
That's
Southern, and she's Southern, so even if she says, well, I took your picture, you look like an idiot, but bless your heart.
Oh my gosh.
They would go, well, thank you. You know, she's just got that Southern charm, you know.
Oh, Lord.
So, but you haven't had any fallouts with anybody?
Not really, no. And from the beginning, when I started doing more people pictures in different countries, I was doing it more to show my kids back home when I come back here.
Right.
So I wasn't posting anything because I wasn't on Facebook until recently, a few years ago.
Right.
It was only for us and our family. And I would bring them back stories, because usually the person that I took the photos of would want to tell me about them, or I would ask them about them, like I'm in X, Y, whatever city or new country that I went to. And I say, I've never been here before, you know, I'm a tourist, I'm doing photography, I think it's beautiful out here. People look wonderful, and to me right now, you are this country.
Right.
What can you tell me about the city or whatever? And boy, they open up.
Right.
And they would tell me all kinds of stories, and I would tell my kids. For every photo that I brought back to them of a person, I had a story, a name, unless it was an interaction from the other side of the street.
Right.
That I didn't know them. Like at a tortilla shop, you know, and they're selling food and everything, and I'd wave the camera at them, and they said, yeah, I'm taking photos, and then they were laughing or whatever and hamming it up, like I said.
Right.
And then I keep shooting for a long time, because I wanted not the ones that they're playing for me, but how is this working? And that's where you got the natural shots, like you like to do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think I've maybe asked people maybe 3 times in my life, doing it 20 years. I shy away from asking, because I always have a fear that I'm going to catch just a smiling stranger, and then I'm going to be obligated to email it to them. And so to me, it's like, okay, the photo's good, and now I got to email it, you know, and I'd rather just catch the moment. I tend to wait for like face expressions to just fall. You know,
and you're excellent at capturing that at just the right moment.
Yeah.
well, I wait it out, kind of like, you know how you're waiting for somebody to blink.
Yeah.
And you'll notice in public, you'll get people that their face changes when somebody's around conversating with them, and they'll even have this happy-go-lucky look to them. But the second the conversation stops and they turn, the person's face falls to their true self. You know, they just
Relax.
and it's very short, because somebody else will say something and break that, you know. So to me, if you're used to trying to catch a shot before somebody blinks, you got a little more time on a face expression, but not much more time. You just get these small windows where they just relax. And that's what I go for. And sure, I've photographed, they'll catch me photograph them at times, but I've also learned I never make eye contact with them.
Right.
Because as soon as I make eye contact, then it's guaranteed that I know, he knows, and it's awkward. So I always act like I'm looking over their shoulder after the shot, or looking at something above, or I'll look off to the right like I wasn't even paying attention. And even if they're staring me down, I'll still walk by like they're not even there. And so in their brain, what happens is they're going, did he just take my photo? It just seems weird, you know. The camera was in this direction, but there was no eye contact. And sometimes it's hard not to make eye contact. I have to really force myself to just like, you don't exist, you know.
Yeah, and the other thing, like you said earlier when you were teaching me, to just look for good light source and then just wait. And then when somebody walks through it, grab the photo. But a lot of times I know people do that and you're actually waiting and they think, oh, I'm so sorry I got in your way.
Yeah.
But you're quick enough that you already got the shot.
Yeah. There's sometimes there's cool light areas that I call it camping. You just kind of camp out on a corner and wait for somebody to walk into that light source and grab it, you know. But you're right, they will come through, and if they see you, they go, oh, I'm sorry. They'll duck out of the way because you were there first, you know. And I'm like, I missed the shot because I ducked out of the way, you know. You do still some candid stuff. You don't ask everybody, do you, Carlos?
I don't ask everybody. I ask people that look really interesting, that I'm really attracted to the facial features. It's all about the face for me. And if they're, how would you say that, they stand out in a crowd.
Right.
Yeah, like that Japanese guy.
Right.
It's like, wow, there's nobody else around here that looks even close to that. He looks like he should be in a movie or something, or a lady.
Right.
Or a young person, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great photo, by the way.
But thank you. I do tell them why I would love to take a photo of them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And everybody likes being flattered, being told that, wow, you're interesting, outstanding features and everything.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of problems with that, but as you saw when I met you and you went on a photo walk with me, we can be talking, but I don't have to be looking at you. I'm looking around everywhere because I'm looking for a shot. I'm looking for those. I like the expressiveness of people when they're interacting in some way or another. The last photos I did last Saturday, you know, nobody is static except him when I had him pose.
Right.
But before that, he was smoking and drinking a coffee. He had a coffee in his hand. I took a few shots and then I went to him because I wanted more than that.
Right.
I wanted a more formal portrait, so to speak, frontal.
Yeah, he was a good subject.
Yeah, he
that was a really
cool.
good shot. It really was.
And before that, it was the ladies. They were very expressive, you know, and that's it. I'm looking for that. A different expression. You know, it could be a stern one, or it could be happy, or whatever, but not a blank face.
Right.
Right.
So that's what I'm looking for constantly. Anticipate something.
Right.
Like I saw a guy that looked like he probably is. He looked like a special forces guy from out of a movie, with this vest, and he's holding his baby boy here, facing forward. The baby is like hanging here on the vest.
Right.
I saw them walking, and you do that. You look way ahead.
Yeah.
You look way ahead and see people coming, and you set yourself up. I've watched you.
Yeah. You have to read the
Yes.
scene. You know.
So I had a fixed focal length. I shoot a lot with the 85mm, which with my cameras becomes a 127 with a crop factor. But so I have to position myself. And with him, I did that. And once he got in the range that I know it's going to be good, then I shot a sequence and I let him see me.
Right.
Because I wanted to see that expression. And I've done that a lot in different countries. I want the look when they realize I'm shooting their picture.
Right.
And I'll tell you a little bit later in the podcast my favorite. It was in Peru.
Oh, yeah?
Many years ago.
There was a lady I saw on the internet. She's a street photographer, really talented one. But she likes to get caught. And she takes the picture the second she gets caught.
Oh.
And because they always have this what the heck look on their face.
Yeah.
And so she does this amazing stuff. Like she demoed this guy. I think he's in a window drinking coffee, but he's sitting and facing out to the street, and she walks by the sidewalk. And she goes, all right, I'm going to get that guy. And he's looking down reading something, right? So as she walks by, she does her camera adjustments to get the exposure and everything just right. And then she walks back to the window, and she sticks her camera right up to the window, right up to his face, and just stands there until he looks up and looks right at her, and she goes, click, and then walks off.
No way.
Oh, yeah. All of her shots, she wants to get caught.
Wow.
But when you look at the finished photo, I'm like, you want to talk about powerful? It's got that what the heck look to it, you know. And you only have about the second of a blink to capture that. And her timing on every single one of them of getting caught is pretty impressive.
That's why in the photo I took at that event of the little boy.
That's one of my favorite.
I love that photo
yeah.
because he's got that bewildered look in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had to wait until he turned.
Yeah.
You know.
That's one of my favorite photos of your street photography. And right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if people are nervous, I think I told you a couple of weeks ago, when I go to events, I'm not nervous because everybody there is expecting to get their photo taken, and they love it.
Yeah.
So like the the Civil War reenactment, everybody wants you to take their photo because they're dressed up, they're participating, they expect it. There's no pressure, there's no stress.
No sneakiness.
And you can talk to a lot of interesting people that way too.
Right.
But that is like so easy if you're uncomfortable doing street photography. It's not exactly street photography, but at least it gets you comfortable.
Right.
And gets you practice of taking photos of people in a candid moment. And then you can take it later to the streets as you build your confidence.
Right. I think if you're wanting to get into street photography, I think events is a good place to practice. Asking people, you know, and when people say, you know, what's the photo for? You know, just say, oh, I'm just learning the camera or something, you know, and I'm practicing, or I'm trying out a new lens, and I just thought you had a great look. And a smile and respect goes a long way with people, you know. Even if they catch it, it goes a long way, you know. And, you know, if I get in a sticky situation, I just have Robin come up with that southern charm and go, it's okay, bless your heart. And they go, wow, I guess it wasn't a bad thing after all, you know. I'm going to take a brief pause here, so if you'd like to support this channel, check this out. Do you love photography? Connect with our Facebook group, Photography Chasing Light Gallery. Connect with some of our students that are happy to help you along the way. Show off some of your work and collect pointers and tips. Check out the link below, Chasing Light Gallery. Okay, we're back. We're going to break it down a little bit if you're wanting to get into street photography. If you've never done it before and you're scared, you're nervous, and you want to go out and give it a try, Robin, what would you say is the easiest way to get started and get comfortable? What would you say for you would be?
Well, I was extremely nervous about street photography, mainly because I think I said before, I am very conscientious of people, and I don't like to do anything that might hurt somebody or aggravate somebody in any way. But if you don't catch that candid moment, sometimes you just miss so much because it tells such a good story. So I think when I first met you and you told me to get the 70 to 200 lens, and that's the first thing we used with street photography for me. I don't recommend the way I did it. Like you said earlier, you told me to camp out, find a light source, and you pointed somebody out, they're going to be walking this direction, get yourself prepared. When they hit the light, take the shot. Okay. So I was so nervous that I'm walking and kind of peeking over, make sure he doesn't see me, even though he's a long way away.
It was comical to watch.
And when he hit the light, I was real quick with my shot and then ran like a chicken. And of course I missed the shot because it's blurry, because I'm also not even standing still, I don't think, when I take the shot. I'm moving the camera the whole time. So yeah, that takes a lot of practice. I think what helped me most when I had to use that lens in that situation is, and even today, if I can find a place, like you said, and camp out. St. Augustine has a lot of great places where light comes through the store windows. One is the chocolate shop. I don't even know what it's called, but it's so busy all the time, and it always has a great light source and tons of interesting people coming in and out. If I can find a place near there just to sit, the people are so happy too, because they're getting their chocolate fix.
Yeah.
And you can easily just point and shoot all day in that spot without drawing a lot of attention to yourself. I think it's also near a crosswalk, which helps. But so yeah, 7200, or I know now we have the 200 prime that sometimes we use a lot, and the 85 I love because of the bokeh that you can get with that.
Right.
But then if we're walking, I still sometimes like shooting from the hip, so it might be a wide angle lens, but you have to get a lot closer for that. But I don't know. I think, like I said before, if I'm not used to it, going to events or places, St. Augustine's kind of easy because it's such a tourist location and there's so many people, so it's always new people coming in and out of that town. So you always have new people. But events, definitely, I think, to get used to shooting people, to know how far to stand, what's your favorite spot, so you can kind of dial in which lens you're more comfortable with as well.
Right.
So I don't know, does that help?
Yeah. I think tourist spots make it real easy, especially something like St. Augustine, because you might be taking somebody's picture, and if they caught you, there's a good chance that the person's going to go, well, I would chew them out, but I don't think they understand French. Because you get so many tourists there that speak so many different languages. True. And they're not in their home stomping grounds, so they're less protective. Tourist areas, I think, are great if you want to start. There's a lot more freedom in that, and definitely events. There's a lot more freedom in events because everybody's taking pictures.
And everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody's just enjoying themselves, and but to me, I mean, I like shooting events, but something like the Civil War event, to make it look authentic, you got to be very careful that there ain't plastic 7-Eleven cups in the frames, and you got a lot more to look out for versus waiting for that moment.
Cell phones.
The cell phones, like when we shot the Civil War event, after they had their gun battle, and there's people pretending like they're dead on the ground. I got a photo of one guy laying there being dead, but he's talking on the phone the whole time. It's like, yeah, this don't look legit to me, So
I will say, though, that event, majority of the people really try to be authentic.
Yeah.
Like I came across one lady standing in line to get a drink, and she had her cell phone inside of a carved out book, so that she could stay in character even while she's going to get something to eat. And I was like, you're a genius trick there. She goes, yeah, I do my best, so that's something I'm going to remember if I ever need it.
So, and you think camping out is a good method for practicing?
I do, because then you can sit still and get ready, and I don't think you're in people's way, because I'm usually over by the wall, kind of scrunched down, so I'm not, a standout. Like, people can't just see me.
Right.
And they all go about their business.
Right.
And they don't know who I'm photographing, because I'm, far enough away that I'm not in their face.
Yeah. The other thing I think helps so people don't spot you is wardrobe. If you wear super bright clothes and you stand out in the crowd, they've spotted you way before you even lifted your camera, so try to blend in. Not too many bright clothes and things like that kind of helps. That's if you're going after candid stuff. You know. Carlos, what would you suggest to somebody that, if they wanted to start out right now, today, but they're nervous, what would you suggest the easiest way to get them going?
Yeah, echoing what she said, St. Augustine here for this region is the best place, bar none. Second is the Riverside Arts Market, where I go every
Right.
Saturday. But it is like that. It is where you have a lot of people, tourists. People are happy. They're enjoying themselves. They're caught up in all their visual and experiences, and they're not so much paying attention to what everybody else is doing. So,
Right.
so you get more natural expressions. I like produce markets, outdoor markets, busy streets where you have a lot of foot traffic, obviously.
Mhm.
And traveling, I like fishing piers where people go, where the fishermen are coming in and people going out to buy what they just brought in.
Right.
Those are always good because, again, there's all this interaction. People are engrossed in what they're doing, and they're not so much paying attention to you. You are definitely, it's like being invisible.
Right.
Because you can be right here, 2 people away from them, and they're not paying attention to you.
Right.
But the 85 millimeter for me is the best for that. Because if I have had the 70-210, it's so big that everybody's aware of that.
Right.
So now you're there's no way you can hide with that unless you go on the other side of the street and try to be covert, sort of. So I'd like to be in closer to the people. But I'm amazed that you, with a 16 millimeter, you go right next to them and you get the best shots. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Well, I've been doing it a while, so I get a little more gutsy with it. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend a 70-200, especially made by Canon, because they're white.
Exactly.
And you look like the paparazzi with a lens that big. 72, I'm not a fan of the 70-200. I know there's people out there that love it. I just never could get it to be as sharp as a 200 prime. The only thing I did like about the 70-200 was every year the professional motocross race would come around, and I would take my son to it, and I would stand in line with the photographers that are going to go in and get pit. And
The ones with the press passes?
with the press passes, and I would just stand there with my son and go, "You're going to meet Travis Pastrana," and it's his hero, and so, and those people would just get so tired seeing all these 7200s coming down that they just wave us right through.
Right.
And so every year, me and Michael would walk right in, and I could get shots, but I missed the lens for that reason, without having a press pass, and he got to meet all his motocross heroes every year growing up, But not everybody can get to St. Augustine, because everybody hears this from all over the world, it seems. I would look for tourist spots, where there's a lot of activity, and look for events on the weekend. I would personally love to go to New York and just do hardcore street photography. And,
What lens would you pick for that?
that'd be a tough call. It depends on my mood. I tend to, if I've had plenty of sleep, and I will probably grab the 50 millimeter because I can get very close to people and get right up on the scene, and I don't mind being social. But if I haven't had a lot of sleep, if I've been working too much, 85 millimeter. And then like that one event, I had an hour and a half of sleep, and I just picked the 200, and I just stay way back. I don't feel like being social, and so honestly, I pick lenses according to my mood. If I want to be social that day, I'll pick a 50 millimeter. So if I'm right in their face with a lens and they say something, I can just make a joke and, "How's it going?" And but I also have my camera on silent shutter,
Right.
so I'll hold it up sometimes, and you can't even hear it click when it goes off. And the off button is right by my thumb. So if they were to say something, "Did you take my picture?" I just hit it off and go, "No, the camera's not even on, look." That kind of thing. It's like, oh, because they can't hear the click, it's just silent shutter. And but if I don't feel like being social, because the hours we work, I'll break down to a 200 and just lay back and coast and do my thing. Starting out, If you're not very social, I would probably recommend, you know, the 70 to 200, I guess, is what most people have. I like the 200. It gives me the reach, and it's black, so and it's not as long as a 70 to 200.
Mm-hmm.
Or an 85 millimeter, you know, and just find areas to camp out and get started. I mean, my first time doing it, I was really nervous. I shot from the hip, and I was shooting with an old 7D, and that, you could hear that click from across the street. that thing would just click, click, and I'm like, wow, that was so loud in here, you know. So that made it twice as nerve-wracking. The mirrorless camera I love. You can't hear nothing, you know.
Yeah, that actually helped me a lot. I think that's the first time I ever got confidence, is when we got the mirrorless and I could look at the screen versus holding the camera to my eye.
Right, right.
That made a huge difference in my nerves when it came to street photography.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because as soon as you pull that camera to your eye, people notice that, especially if you got large lenses. You look like a news crew, you know, or something. They're going, what are they here for, you know? As a matter of fact, there's been times just walking through St. Augustine when we did use the 7200. I remember walking through and somebody go, I like your camera. Are you shooting an event today? And I'm like, you are the event, you know? It's like, you know, right away, there. And that can trigger something in people too. It's like, I didn't give you permission to be in the newspaper kind of thing. I know that's people's biggest fear of, are you doing something wrong?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you realize you're not doing anything wrong, did you ask these people's permission? Well, if I went and photographed a football game, and I'm photographing, I'm catching people all in them shots all day long. How am I going to go ask all these players and all these people in the stands their permission? It's the same thing, you know. So I don't know. Starting out, I would suggest the camping. Pick a light source, sit there, get a coffee, and you got to read people further away. You got to kind of predict where they're headed to, you know, and kind of foresee it. I think, you know, like guys with these long beards, you know, and they've aged, all the textures and everything, I think just tells a story on its own.
Right.
You know, the aging process. It's much like, you know, when I get dragged out to do landscape stuff.
What are you saying?
Oh, nothing. You know, like if I was going to shoot a post that's in the ground that's got chain on it and stuff, I'm shooting it because of the weathered post and the aging of that post. If it was a brand new post somebody just painted, I don't care how the light's hitting it. There's no story there, you know. But if you can tell it's probably been there for 10 years, it's leaning a bit, you can tell it might have been painted blue at one point, there's a story there, even though it's just a post. And I see that same thing in people's faces. If you're a people watcher at the mall, good chance you'd love street photography. You know, there's times I could just go to the mall and just sit and people watch and try to
I think
read.
a lot of people enjoy people watching like that.
Yeah. And just read their moods. You can almost sense their moods when you watch them, you know. You can watch people in a restaurant and their conversations. You can tell from across the room, you can tell how well that conversation's going. If, you know, one person, you know, is feeling defensive of the other person, and the other person's got those words that's saying, I don't mean to hurt your feelings when I say this to you. Well, just saying that you already did, you know. I can't wait to hear the rest, you know. You can sense those conversations, and you can catch some really cool shots, especially in restaurants and things like that, the way the lighting is and stuff.
The other thing I think is fun is to actually catch workers doing their jobs. I think we've gotten a lot of interesting photos just with somebody, you know, street sweeping or, you know, making pizza, you know, or whatever. I think it's kind of sometimes that tells a big story when you catch the interaction, either or them talking with their customers.
Right.
I think we've come off with a lot of good photos, just them working.
Yeah.
And it tells a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has to work.
Yeah. And you're notorious. I know when we go in to get coffee or take a break or something, and there's somebody's behind the counter, you'll go, "Do you mind if I take your picture?" And they go, "Not at all." And they'll stand there and smile. And you go, "Oh no, just keep working. I'll grab what I can, Yeah. And at first they start working with this grin on their face, and after 8 hours, slinging hamburgers, nobody's grinning, And then eventually they start calming down, start filling orders, and it's bam, bam, bam. You can start getting some really interesting shots with interesting lighting. What makes you want to take people's photos, Carlos? What is it that draws you in?
For me, it's the faces, and it doesn't mean they have to be beautiful. Actually, the majority of the photos I take are not of people that look like a movie star, not the main character. I'm always casting people in my mind, and I see interesting features. I take a lot of photos of guys with beards, like you were mentioning, older people, because exactly what you said. They're more interesting, they tell a story. It's not like a generic younger person that you see many, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They stand out. That's what I'd look for. And also watching them, because it could be a very interesting looking person, but if they're like blank that day, they don't have any emotion showing. So that's why I watch, and I did that when I was younger at the mall.
Right.
I would sit, and my dad would do it too. I'd sit with them.
People watching.
Watch people, and that was always interesting to me. So I look for some way of that face having an expression that's worth catching, that it does. It makes you wonder, question in your mind, I wonder what they were thinking or looking, or what the conversation was like you're saying.
Yeah.
And if I do approach people a lot of times, and they agree, I'll tell them, don't look at me, just keep talking. Y'all keep talking.
Yeah.
And I let them keep talking, and I catch a bunch of photos, and then, invariably, they like those better.
Right.
They like those better. It's like the few weddings I have done, that's it. You do the mandatory post ones.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I'll tell them, you just keep talking over there, and I'm shooting life as it happens, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that has caused for some people to ask me back to do another wedding of their daughter or whatever. So it's always worked out well. I just let people flow.
Right, right. We typically will avoid weddings. We've shot a couple. I don't mind shooting a wedding if they let me shoot it candid. But if I have to do it and make it look like glamour shots, like everybody else's typical wedding, I'm not interested in it. And I mean, I've shot a couple weddings like that are full glamour, and it made me never want to shoot weddings again. And mostly because this was the problem. The bride's in a panic, so she's real edgy. The mother-in-law's in a panic, and the bride's mother is going crazy, and they're very short, very fused. We want this, we want that, we want this. And then it never fails when they want group photos. Somebody's refusing to be in the photo if so-and-so's in the photo. And I go, I'm only supposed to be here 4 hours, and we've spent 2 hours trying to get those two to make up to get in a photo. And I'm going, I'm never doing this again. This is not worth it to me.
No, I always ask, who's here for this wedding that you haven't seen in a long time? Like, who are the people that you don't generally see? And then I, point them out to me. And I'll go talk to them, and I get the group to form of the people that they may not see again for 6, 7 years and they haven't seen forever. And that always has worked out really well.
Yeah.
Because there are photos that they're all going to appreciate
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah. Wedding's an art form on its own. My nervous system just doesn't handle that much tension, you know.
Well, I think, again, that takes a lot of practice.
It really
and the people
does.
that are really good it was not their first wedding, but they've been doing it. They have a system. They know what to expect most of the time.
And to be honest, I would be more nervous to shoot a wedding than I would street photography.
Believe it.
And way more nervous.
And you know I would.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, you shot one with me. Yeah, it's a lot more nerve-wracking. I think some of the biggest challenges in street photography that I find right now, but I'm rather used to doing it. My biggest challenge when I'm out is trying to find good shots of people without their cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And that thins out the crowd than what it used to be. It used to be,
Yeah.
you could be out all day and get all kinds of people all day long. But now when you go to get a candid shot, they're staring at their cell phone.
It's true.
And it's just, I mean, I did a photo of a couple in a restaurant, and the dude's sitting there on his cell phone with his wife, and she's just sitting there staring up into space, bored as can be. And
And
to
it
me,
really told a story.
and that told a
yeah.
story. I mean, he should
Not a good story.
put down his phone and spend time with his wife. And then I had another one. There was a couple that were sitting outside St. Augustine.
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about the one that was in the ice factory or whatever it was.
I got you. I know.
Yeah, and then there was another one, another couple, same thing. The guy's on his phone, and his wife's sitting there with her arms crossed like this, just literally staring up at the clouds. And he's comfortable, laid back, just going on his phone. And it was for a long time. He stayed like that. I'm like, dude, man, talk to your wife. Put that thing away, you know. But that seems to be the biggest challenge right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, where do you plan on taking all your street photography photos? What would you like to do with them? Besides just having them online and on the internet, because everybody creates a body of work over time, and like I could go out tomorrow and come home with 50 great street photos, but there's really going to be only 1 or 2 gems in there that you're just like, oh, this one's my favorite out of this day. And over 20 years, you end up with a body of work like that, where you can just pull out this 1 or 2 from this day, 1 or 2 from this day, and now you have a very strong body of work. Where would you like to see your favorite photos go and be left? If something, you know, if we were done here on this earth, what would you like them to be published? What would you like to have them done? Because there's nothing worse to me than taking a bunch of photos that nobody ever gets to see forever. You know,
Right.
It's like an orchestra with no sound. It's just useless, you know. So your legacy, your photos of your body of work, where would you like to see them go?
Of mostly people, like street photography.
Yeah.
The only thing I could really think would be in a book of some sort. But whenever I am taking photos and when I see the story, the story I want, usually I think of sometimes a Bible quote, sometimes just a meme that you've seen, quotes from people that says that could be uplifting, it could be over sadness, it could be over grief. But I seem to always attach those when I'm editing a photo. I'll attach something like that with that photo. I may not ever share that, but if I was doing a book or something, I would probably attach a poem, quotes, a meme, something that would go to give expression of what that story is in that photo to me.
Right.
I don't know.
So like a coffee table book type thing?
Yeah.
What about you, Carlos? Because I know you have tons. You've been shooting since the film days.
Oh my God, I have so much prints, you know, old negatives and everything. Recently, I was going to ask you all about precisely that, a photo book, because at Costco, when they had their lab here, they would do that. And it was real nice, but they don't have the labs here anymore. So I don't know where to go here in town to get that. I want to make one for work, and a personal one too, of the best portraits of strangers that I have taken. I have, the only place where I have is, I had my work at, when I started really putting anything on the internet, was on Flickr. And it's still there, photos from way back when I started. Some were actually filmed, scanned. But when I really started with digital in like 2002, I just put them on Flickr. I do want to have a photo book, or two or more, because there's just so much to put out there. I also wanted to find out about Squarespace, I believe it is.
Yeah, our website's on Squarespace.
Yeah, because a lot of people have recommended that to me.
Yeah.
Make yourself a page in Squarespace, or put a body of work there.
Yeah.
So that's those are the main. Have a book, an actual physical book.
Right. Right.
And the Squarespace.
Yeah, I think I would like to have a couple books, you know, that can be left, you know, like to Michael, you know what I mean? And with my favorite body of work. I mean, I have favorite images. It seems like every time we go out and shoot, like, even though we might shoot 2,000 shots in a day.
Right.
And which eats up a lot of hard drive space, you know. You know, out of 2,000, I can pull out 20 I like and one favorite. You know, not saying that when I revisit some of these, because I've gone back and revisited some and go, wow, with fresh eyes, that's a gem, you know. And I've pulled out a couple shots, I go, wow, I'm glad I went back and looked at these. These are really good, you know. And
I think sometimes that could be where you are in that moment when you first see your photos, like what's going on in your life, what are you connecting to, and then later you may be in a different space.
That's true.
Where it might connect more with you at that point, you know.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes when you're out shooting, like now, I'll use the Civil War again as the thing. When you're shooting that all day long, and then you get home and you look at the photos, you're already kind of bored with it. You got to give yourself a break, because the excitement was there, and then the excitement wears off when you start sorting through 2,000 photos, and then you're backtracking, trying to pick, and you're going, and then you become numb to it. And so to me, I find it helps to step away and then go back to it tomorrow with fresh eyes or something. However, there's times though and we do this all the time, we get home, we're exhausted from walking all day, but we have a favorite photo we know that's got to be great.
But you want to get a seat.
and we'll go, we're just going to go look, you know, and she'll go to her computer, pull up hers, I'll pull up mine, and then next thing we know, it's 3, 4 in the morning. It's because we're like editing, you know. It's like, how did I get sidetracked to this? And it's because you get inspired by that favorite one that couldn't believe I got this. I remember in the beginning there was, when I wasn't real quick with lenses, getting them dialed in like I can now, I can think of a couple of photos that I wish I didn't mess them up. And in the camera I'm looking and go, oh, I can't believe I got this. It's perfect, you know, and all the shadows and lights and perfect. And I got it home and get it pulled up on the computer and it's blurry.
Oh, yeah.
And no fixing it, no nothing. And I'm like, no, you know. I was like, because all day long I go, I can't wait to get home, get this on the computer. And and they're gone, they're lost.
That's happened to everyone.
I was about to say the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It just, because on the camera it can be deceiving, you know, a lot of times, you know. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. And if you want to see Carlos' work, you go into our group, Photography Chasing Light Gallery on Facebook, and he goes by CR Jpeg. And why do you go by Jpeg?
Because that's what I shoot from day one. Yeah, I shot so much. Amazing. In one day, like you all saying, you can have 2,000 photos. I would go to an event, come back with 1,400. Or I did a lot of action photography, you know, the motorcycles, airplanes, boats, and everything.
Right.
And to me, to do it all in RAW, it just take too much time. And we're talking about way before, you know, early 2000s. A little memory in the computers, and it would take forever just to do one thing. So the JPEGs, I just switch everything to JPEG fine and shoot like that. Most of the time, at the end of the day, people were waiting for photos. And it made it all flow easy, and I never, ever, even the weddings, had a complaint about any of them. So I thought, well, it's easy for me, I'm lazy. No, really.
You're far from lazy.
I was lazy. I didn't want to sit there and do all, because I wasn't doing it for art now, and I'm not a professional. So if I had been doing this professionally, I'd be shooting RAW.
Right.
But this was more, even though a lot was published and used in air shows and all kinds of things, nobody had an issue. And the quality that I got out of them was never an issue.
Right.
So,
and JPEGs can be very quick for, like you said, transfer to somebody. You can just Bluetooth it to them right there, you know, and send it over. And RAW files are very flat and dull and require work. But I kind of like that, where it's like, to me, it's like a canvas, you know, where I get to bring out what I want brought out, push back what I don't want up front, and then color grading it, you know, and it's time consuming. And you're the kind of guy that don't like to be home long. You want to go out and be active.
No,
you know?
and everybody I shoot wants them like now.
Right
away. And that's always been like that at work too, you know. Everybody's waiting for the photos. Where are them? Well, there are 500 of them. You know, and they go, could you email them to us? And no.
Right. Can you imagine emailing 500 RAW files?
Put them all in a CD or then later a DVD, you know, and it took. It still took time, even though they were JPEGs, with the computers that we had at the time and the process.
Right.
But that's what worked for me and for the people that I have dealt with.
Right.
So, but again, if I decided to go do serious work like you all do, I would be switching over
to RAW,
learning all
files. I've never. I don't think I've ever shot in JPEG. Robin did by accident.
Oh gosh, don't remind me. A couple of times.
It's like, oh, why is this not coming out? And it's like, oh no, these are JPEG files. They got switched over in the camera somehow, but.
And one time I was shooting in monochrome mode, so I couldn't even convert them to color.
Because we shoot in monochrome, but in RAW, when you open them up in Lightroom, they open up in color, you know.
Yeah, because you're shooting RAW.
Yeah, so the information's still there. But that one time you went out and shot all day, and they were...
And I had this beautiful sunset in black and white.
Somehow that doesn't go over too well. All right. Well, Carlos, what did I call him just now?
I'm not sure.
Carlos, I appreciate you coming by and doing this podcast with us. We'll probably have you on a few more because we do go to a lot of events and stuff together. You join us a lot of times, or we end up joining you. And then we come by.
And we always have a great time with you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's always fun. And but we'll have Carlos back, and I hope this helps out with street photography. If you have any more questions about street photography, feel free to message us, and we'll see if we can add it to our next podcast, or something in the future. Or I can even do a post on it if it's something rather simple. But appreciate you guys listening, and check out ChasingLightGallery.com, or go to Patreon at Chasing Light Gallery and take our classes on editing, street photography, landscape, whatever you need, and Lightroom Classic, and it's all available there. And hope to see you guys online again real soon. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Want to take your photography to the next level? From mastering your camera settings to stunning shots, I've got you covered. Join me as I break down pro techniques step by step. Start creating like a pro today. Check out the link below. Chasing Light Gallery.